The text message hit my phone at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right as I was elbow deep in the engine of a 1967 Mustang that had been giving me grief all week. The notification sound cut through the garage like a rusty blade, and something in my gut told me to wipe my hands clean before reading it. Maxed out your card in Miami. You make enough. Brianna. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at those 12 words until they burned into my retinas. Danny Morrison, 38 years old, owner of Morrison's Custom Garage, married for 7 years to a woman who apparently thought my credit limit was her personal playground. The audacity was so pure, so crystalline in its selfishness, that I actually laughed. A bitter, hollow sound that echoed off the concrete walls. You make enough. Like I was some kind of ATM with legs and a wedding ring. My phone buzzed again. A notification from my bank. Credit card over-limit fee, $35. Another buzz, another fee. The hits kept coming like a boxer working a heavy bag, each notification a fresh punch to my financial gut. I called the number on the back of my Visa card, my hands surprisingly steady as I navigated the automated system. When I finally reached a human being, a pleasant woman named Carol, I learned the full scope of Brianna's Miami adventure. Let's see here, Mr. Morrison. Yesterday we have charges at the Fontainebleau Hotel, $847 for one night. Then there's Nobu Miami, $312. LIV Nightclub, $423. A spa called Lapis, $689. And this morning, Tiffany & Co., $247. Each number felt like a slap. That's over $3,000 in 2 days. Actually, sir, it's $3,000 out of 18, not including the over-limit fees. Would you like me to go through the smaller charges as well? No, that's enough. I rubbed my temples, leaving grease stains I'd regret later. I need to report this card as stolen. There was a pause. Stolen, sir? The charges show the card was used with the correct PIN at several locations. My wife took it without permission. She's in Miami, I'm in Detroit. That counts as theft in my book. Carol's tone shifted slightly, becoming more professional. I understand your frustration, sir. I'll flag these charges as disputed and start a fraud investigation. You'll need to file a police report within 48 hours. After hanging up, I sat in my office chair, staring at the wall covered with photos of cars I'd restored. Each one represented months of work, attention to detail, and pride in craftsmanship. Things Brianna had never understood or appreciated. My best friend Neil called 20 minutes later. He owned O'Malley's, the dive bar 3 blocks from my garage where I spent most Friday nights nursing a beer and watching whatever game was on. Danny, you sound like someone ran over your dog. What's wrong? I told him about the text, the charges, the whole mess. Neil listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. When I finished, there was a long silence. Brother, he finally said, you know what this is, right? Financial infidelity? It's war. She fired the first shot, and it was a big one. Question is, what are you going to do about it? That evening, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago, scrolling through our joint credit card statements online. The Miami charges were just the tip of the iceberg. Over the past 3 months, there were charges I didn't recognize, expensive lunches at restaurants I'd never heard of, a gym membership at some place called Elite Fitness that cost more per month than my car payment, charges at Victoria's Secret, which was particularly insulting since Brianna hadn't shown any interest in impressing me in over a year. My laptop chimed with a Facebook notification. Brianna had posted a photo from Miami Beach. She was wearing a bikini that probably cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget, holding a cocktail with one of those little umbrellas. The caption read, "Living my best life. Sometimes you just have to treat yourself." Miami vibes and no regrets. The comments were already rolling in from her friends. Kelsey wrote, You deserve it, girl, Lauren added. Get it, queen? A bunch of fire emojis and hard-eye faces from people who had no idea she was treating herself with money that wasn't hers. But it was the tagged location that made my blood pressure spike. The Fontainebleau, Miami Beach. The same hotel from the credit card charges. And in the background of the photo, barely visible, but definitely there, was a man's hand holding a matching cocktail. I screenshot the photo and started digging deeper into her social media. Brianna wasn't exactly subtle. 3 weeks ago, she'd posted a gym selfie with the caption, "My trainer is pushing me so hard. Fitness journey, personal training." The location tag, Elite Fitness. I cross-referenced the gym membership charge with the date of her first post about personal training. Perfect match. Then I looked at the trainer tagged in several of her recent posts. Jake Thompson, 28, with the kind of artificially white smile and spray-tanned abs that screamed, "I peek in other people's wives." My phone rang. The caller ID showed Detective Sarah Moore from the Detroit Police Department. "Mr. Morrison, this is Detective Moore. I understand you want to file a report about fraudulent credit card charges?" "That's right. My wife maxed out my credit card in Miami without my permission." "I see. And where is your wife now?" "Still in Miami, as far as I know. Living her best life on my dime." Detective Moore had a no-nonsense voice that I immediately respected. "Mr. Morrison, I have to ask, is this a domestic dispute or actual credit card fraud? Because if your wife has access to your accounts and you're married..." "Detective, if I took my wife's credit card and spent $3,500 without telling her, would that be a domestic dispute or theft?" "Point taken. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? I'd like to get a formal statement." After hanging up, I made myself a fresh cup of coffee and opened a new browser tab. If Brianna wanted to play games with my money, I was going to learn the rules. I started researching Michigan laws about financial infidelity, credit card fraud between spouses, and divorce proceedings. The law was murkier than I'd hoped, but one thing was clear. Documentation was everything. Screenshots, bank statements, receipts. I needed to build a paper trail that would make Brianna's spending spree look exactly like what it was. Theft. My phone buzzed with another Facebook notification. Brianna had posted again, this time a photo of herself and Jake Thompson at what looked like an expensive restaurant. His face was clearly visible now, and he had his arm around her waist. The caption, "Amazing dinner with an amazing friend. Life is good. Grateful, new experiences." I saved the screenshot and added it to a folder I created on my desktop titled Evidence. Then I started going through her Instagram, Twitter, and even her LinkedIn account, documenting everything. By midnight, I had a timeline that painted a clear picture. The personal training sessions had started 2 months ago. The expensive lunches began 3 weeks later. The Victoria's Secret charges coincided with her first Instagram post about feeling confident and sexy. And now the Miami trip with Jake, funded entirely by my credit card. I leaned back in my chair and cracked my knuckles. Tomorrow, I'd file the police report. But tonight, I was going to plan something much more satisfying than legal proceedings. Brianna thought she was smart, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the man she'd been married to for 7 years. I might be just a mechanic who worked with his hands, but I understood how things worked. Cause and effect, action and reaction. Push something too far, and it breaks. She was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Brianna came home Thursday evening with a tan that probably cost me another $100 and an attitude that suggested I should be grateful for her return. She waltzed through the front door like she was doing me a favor, dragging a new suitcase that still had the price tag attached. $247 at some boutique in South Beach, according to the receipt that fluttered to the floor. "Danny, we need to talk," she announced, not even bothering with a hello. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, white and flowing, The kind that screamed, "I'm a free spirit" to anyone who didn't know it was purchased with stolen money. Yeah, we do. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a folder full of printed bank statements, credit card bills, and screenshots. Starting with this police report I filed yesterday. Her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, realization, and finally, indignation. You called the police? On your own wife? I called the police on someone who stole my credit card and racked up $4,000 in charges without permission. The fact that she happens to be my wife is just an unfortunate coincidence. Brianna sat down across from me, and I caught a whiff of expensive perfume. Another purchase I'd probably find on next month's statement. Danny, you're being ridiculous. We're married. What's yours is mine, what's mine is yours. That's how marriage works. Really? So I can take your car and sell it without asking? I can empty your savings account for a weekend in Vegas? That's how marriage works? She waved her hand dismissively. That's different, and you know it. I needed this trip. I've been stressed at work, and you've been so distant lately. I needed to clear my head. With Jake Thompson? The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots, the restaurant photo, the beach picture with his hand visible, the gym selfies with heart eye emojis on his comments. Your social media game needs work, Brianna. You're not exactly subtle. She stared at the phone for a long moment, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Real tears, or at least well-practiced ones. Danny, it's not what you think. Jake is just a friend. He was in Miami for a fitness conference, and we happened to run into each other. Bullshit. I pulled out more screenshots, these from Jake's Instagram account. He posted a story from the Fontainebleau pool yesterday. Same day, same time, same pool chairs as your photo. What are the odds of that coincidence? Brianna's tears dried up quickly. Fine. Yes, we planned to meet up. But nothing happened, Danny. We're just friends. He's helping me get in shape, and he's a good listener, unlike some people. A good listener who you bought a $300 dinner for? A good listener who got to enjoy a hotel room that cost more than most people make in a week? We had separate rooms. I pulled out another screenshot, this one from the hotel's website. The Fontainebleau only charged my card once, Brianna. One room, one night. Either you're lying, or Jake's a freeloader who made you pay for everything. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the kitchen floor. I don't have to listen to this. You're being paranoid and controlling. Maybe if you paid more attention to me instead of those stupid cars, I wouldn't need to find friendship elsewhere. Friendship that costs $4,000? You make good money, Danny. We can afford it. We can afford it? When's the last time you contributed to the mortgage? When's the last time you paid a utility bill? You spend more on your gym membership than you contribute to our household expenses. Brianna's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it instinctively. I caught a glimpse of the name on the screen. Jake. Her face flushed. Are you serious right now? I stood up too, and suddenly the kitchen felt very small. He's texting you while we're having this conversation? It's probably just about my workout schedule. At 9 p.m. on a Thursday? She clutched her phone to her chest. Danny, you're scaring me. This isn't like you. You're right. The old Danny would have believed your lies and apologized for making you feel bad. The old Danny would have worked extra hours to pay off your credit card adventure and never mentioned it again. But the old Danny didn't know his wife was a cheating thief. I am not a thief. Then what do you call taking someone's credit card without permission and spending $4,000? I call it being married to someone who's supposed to love and support me. The argument continued for another hour, going in circles. Brianna alternated between tears, anger, and attempts at manipulation. She tried to make me feel guilty for not trusting her, for being controlling, for not appreciating how hard her job was. She painted herself as the victim and me as the villain, which might have worked if I hadn't spent the last 2 days documenting her lies. Finally, she stormed upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. I heard the shower running, then the blow dryer, then silence. When I went upstairs around midnight, she was already asleep, or pretending to be, curled up on the far edge of our king-size bed. I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling and listening to her breathe. 7 years of marriage, and I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. Maybe I always had been. Friday morning, Brianna left for work without saying goodbye. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Danny, I love you, but you need to decide if you trust me or not. This paranoia is killing our marriage. B. I took a photo of the note and added it to my evidence folder. At 10 a.m., my phone rang. The caller ID showed Brianna's office number, but it wasn't Brianna calling. Mr. Morrison, this is Patricia Wells, HR Director at Consolidated Marketing. I need to speak with you about some irregularities we've discovered in your wife's expense reports. My stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? Personal charges submitted for reimbursement. The Miami trip, for instance. Brianna submitted receipts claiming it was a client meeting, but we can't find any record of business activities. We've also found restaurant charges, spa treatments, and retail purchases that don't appear to be business-related. How much are we talking about? Approximately $2,700 over the past 2 months. Mr. Morrison, I have to ask, did you know about this? No, ma'am, I had no idea. We're conducting an internal investigation. Brianna has been suspended pending the outcome. I wanted to give you a heads up since some of these charges were made on cards linked to your accounts as well. After hanging up, I sat in my office chair and tried to process this new information. It wasn't just my credit card. Brianna had been stealing from her employer too, submitting fake expense reports and getting reimbursed for her affair. The scope of her deception was staggering. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a cry for attention. This was calculated, systematic fraud that had been going on for months. My phone buzzed with a text from Neil. Heard through the grapevine that Brianna got suspended from work. You okay? News traveled fast in our neighborhood. I texted back, it's worse than I thought. Can we talk tonight? I'll save you a beer. At 3 p.m., Brianna came home early, her face red and blotchy from crying. She'd been fired, not just suspended. The company was considering pressing charges. Danny, I need your help, she said, standing in the doorway of my office. I made some mistakes with my expense reports, and now they're saying I committed fraud. I need a lawyer. What kind of mistakes? I may have submitted some personal receipts by accident. It wasn't intentional, I was just disorganized. I pulled up the screenshots from her social media again. By accident? You accidentally submitted a receipt from your romantic dinner with Jake as a business expense? She broke down then, real tears this time. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up, but I can't go to jail. Please, I need you to help me. I need you to stand by me. Looking at her now, mascara running down her cheeks, designer dress wrinkled from a day of corporate humiliation, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Not forgiveness, not love, but genuine pity for someone who had destroyed her own life through greed and stupidity. Brianna, I said quietly, you didn't just mess up. You committed fraud. Against me, against your employer, probably against others I don't even know about yet. You've been lying to me for months while stealing money to fund an affair. And now you want me to help you? I love you, Danny. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. No, you don't. You love my credit limit. You love having someone to clean up your messes. But you don't love me, and honestly, I don't think you ever did. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something change in her expression. The tears stopped, and her face hardened. Fine, she said. If that's how you want to play this, fine. But remember, Danny, I know where all the bodies are buried. You want a war? You've got one. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. A few minutes later, I heard the front door slam and her car start up. I sat back in my chair and opened my laptop. If Brianna wanted a war, she was going to get one. But she'd made a crucial tactical error. She'd given me time to prepare while she was busy destroying her own credibility. I opened a new browser tab and started researching divorce lawyers. The war was just beginning. Saturday morning brought a text from Brianna at 6:47 a.m. Staying at Kelsey's for a few days, need space to think. I was already awake, sitting in my kitchen with coffee and a yellow legal pad, making lists. Assets, debts, evidence, witnesses. The methodical approach that served me well in rebuilding engines was proving useful in dismantling a marriage. My phone rang an hour later. Detective Moore. Mr. Morrison, we've completed our preliminary investigation into your credit card fraud report. I need you to come in and review your statement. At the police station, Detective Moore led me to a small interview room that smelled like industrial coffee and disappointment. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Morrison, I'll be direct with you. Your case is complicated. Technically, your wife had access to your accounts, which makes this a civil matter rather than criminal fraud. However, the fact that she used the card for purposes you explicitly didn't authorize, combined with her employment fraud, changes things. She slid a folder across the table. We spoke with Patricia Wells at Consolidated Marketing. Your wife submitted false expense reports totaling $2,847. That's criminal fraud, no question. The credit card situation becomes part of a pattern of deceptive financial behavior. What happens now? That depends partly on you. Are you willing to testify against your wife if this goes to trial? I thought about Brianna's threat yesterday, her promise of war. Yes, I'll testify. Detective Moore nodded. There's something else. We found some interesting social media activity. Your wife and this Jake Thompson character have been pretty careless about documenting their activities. Photos, location tags, comments that suggest a relationship that goes beyond personal training. She showed me printouts I hadn't seen before. Jake's Instagram story from 2 weeks ago, showing Brianna's car in his driveway with the caption, "Afternoon workouts are the best." A Twitter exchange between them from last month, full of inside jokes and flirtatious emojis. A Venmo transaction where Brianna paid Jake $200 with the note, "Thanks for the private session." We're building a timeline that shows premeditation, Detective Moore continued. This wasn't a spontaneous trip to Miami. They've been planning this for weeks, possibly months. I left the police station feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. The evidence was overwhelming, but seeing it all laid out in black and white made the betrayal feel fresh again. Neil called as I was driving home. "Danny, you need to get to O'Malley's. Now." "It's 10 a.m., Neil. I don't need a drink." "It's not about drinking. Just get here." I found Neil behind the bar, polishing glasses with more intensity than necessary. The bar was empty except for one customer, Jake Thompson, sitting at the far end nursing what looked like a whiskey and staring at his phone. "He's been here since we opened," Neil whispered. "Asking about you. Wants to clear the air about some misunderstanding." I walked over to Jake's end of the bar. Up close, he was smaller than I'd expected, maybe 5'9" in his expensive sneakers. His spray tan was fading unevenly, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "You wanted to talk?" I said, sliding onto the bar stool next to him. Jake looked up from his phone, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "Danny Morrison, I've heard a lot about you." "I'll bet you have. All of it from my wife while you were spending my money in Miami." He held up his hands in a gesture that was probably meant to look peaceful, but came across as condescending. "Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Brianna and I are just friends. She needed someone to talk to, someone who would listen." "For $4,000? I didn't know she was using your credit card. She told me she had her own money. When I found out yesterday that you'd called the cops, I felt terrible." "Yesterday? How did you find out yesterday?" Jake's face flushed. "She called me. She was upset about losing her job and needed someone to talk to." So you're still talking to her, while she's staying at her friend's house, supposedly taking space to think about our marriage. She's calling you. It's not like that. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the screenshots Detective Moore had shared. This is your Instagram story from Miami. You and Brianna in bed together. The timestamp shows it was posted at 11:47 p.m. What exactly am I misunderstanding? Jake stared at the phone, his face going pale under the artificial tan. That was just what? Just you fucking my wife in a hotel room I paid for? Neil cleared his throat from behind the bar. Gentlemen, maybe we should keep it down. Jake stood up abruptly, swaying slightly. I don't have to listen to this. Brianna said you were controlling and paranoid, but I didn't realize how bad it was. Controlling? I'm controlling because I don't want my wife stealing my money to fund her affair? She's not happy with you, man. She hasn't been happy for a long time. Maybe instead of blaming everyone else, you should look in the mirror. That's when I lost it. I grabbed Jake by his designer t-shirt and slammed him against the bar. You want to give me marriage advice? You want to tell me how to treat my wife while you're fucking her behind my back? Danny, Neil shouted, but I wasn't listening. Jake tried to push me away, but 7 years of working on cars had given me strength he couldn't match. You pathetic piece of shit, I hissed. You think you're some kind of stud, but you're just a broke trainer who preys on married women. How much did she spend on you? How much of my money went into your pocket? Get off me. Jake struggled, but I had him pinned. You know what the best part is? I continued. She's broke now, fired from her job, credit cards maxed out, probably going to be charged with fraud. Hope you got your money's worth, because the gravy train just derailed. Neil came around the bar and put a hand on my shoulder. Danny, let him go. He's not worth it. I released Jake and stepped back. He straightened his shirt and tried to regain some dignity, but his hands were shaking. You're crazy, he muttered. No wonder she wanted out. She wanted out so bad she stole $4,000 to fund her escape? That's not wanting out, that's theft. Jake headed for the door, then turned back. This isn't over, Morrison. Brianna deserves better than you. Brianna deserves prison, and if there's any justice in the world, that's where she's headed. After Jake left, I sat at the bar while Neil poured me a beer I didn't want. Feel better? He asked. No, I feel like an idiot for not seeing this coming. How could you have seen it? People don't usually advertise when they're planning to rob you blind. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your husband just assaulted me at O'Malley's. Thought you should know. Jake. A minute later, Brianna called. Danny, what the hell is wrong with you? Jake said you attacked him. I didn't attack him. I had a conversation with him about my wife and my money. He didn't like what I had to say. He's pressing charges. Good. That'll give the police another chance to ask him about his role in your fraud scheme. There was a long pause. Danny, I'm trying to be reasonable here, but you're making this very difficult. I'm making this difficult? Brianna, you stole my credit card, fucked your trainer, lied to the police, committed fraud against your employer, and now you're threatening me. But I'm making this difficult? I want a divorce. Get in line. I already called a lawyer. She hung up. Neil refilled my beer. So what's your next move? I thought about it for a moment. I'm going to destroy her. Legally, financially, socially. She wants a war. I'm going to give her one she'll never forget. Danny. She made one mistake, Neil. She left me alive and functional while she was busy burning bridges. Now she's got no job, no money, and no credibility. But I've got evidence, witnesses, and a very good memory for details. I finished my beer and stood up. Brianna thinks she knows where the bodies are buried, but she's about to learn that I'm the one holding the shovel. Monday morning brought a call from my lawyer, Patricia Chen, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in high-conflict divorces. Danny, I've reviewed all your documentation. Your wife made this easy for us. The social media evidence alone is damning, but combined with the financial fraud, we have grounds for fault-based divorce and criminal charges. What does that mean for me? It means you're going to come out of this in much better shape than she is. Michigan allows divorce based on adultery and financial misconduct. She'll be lucky to get anything in the settlement, especially if she's facing criminal charges. That afternoon, I was under the hood of a 1969 Camaro when Neil showed up at the garage. "You need to see this," he said, holding up his phone. Brianna had posted a long Facebook status. "Sometimes the people closest to you turn out to be strangers. I'm going through a difficult time right now, dealing with false accusations and a marriage that became toxic. I'm grateful for friends who stand by me and see the truth. To those spreading lies and rumors, karma is real. Stay strong. Truth wins. New beginnings." The comments were already pouring in. "Kelsey, we love you, girl. Stay strong." Lauren, "Anyone who knows you knows these accusations are ridiculous." A dozen other friends and co-workers expressing support and outrage on her behalf. "She's playing the victim card," Neil observed. "Let her. I've got something better than social media sympathy." I pulled out my phone and called Detective Moore. "Detective, it's Danny Morrison. I wanted to let you know that my wife is posting on social media about false accusations regarding our case. Thought you should be aware in case it impacts your investigation." "Actually, Mr. Morrison, I was just about to call you. We've made some progress. Jake Thompson came in this morning to file an assault complaint against you." My stomach dropped. "Am I being charged?" "No, but during his statement, he admitted to several things that corroborate your fraud case. He confirmed the affair, admitted that your wife paid for their Miami trip, and acknowledged receiving money from her for personal training sessions that weren't actually training." "He confessed?" "He was trying to paint himself as a victim of your wife's deception, claiming he didn't know she was using stolen money. But in doing so, he provided evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. We're issuing a warrant for both of them." I hung up and looked at Neil. "They're both getting arrested." "When?" "Soon." Wednesday evening, I was at home watching the news when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all going crazy with tags and mentions. Brianna had been arrested at Kelsey's house. The local news had picked up the story. Local woman charged with credit card fraud and employment fraud. There was footage of her being led away in handcuffs, her face hidden behind her hair. The social media response was swift and brutal. The same friends who'd been supporting her 2 days ago were now posting shocked reactions and distancing themselves. "I had no idea. This is so unlike her. I feel so betrayed." Kelsey posted, "I'm shocked and hurt by these revelations. I opened my home to someone I thought was a friend in need, only to learn she's been lying to everyone. I will not be providing support for illegal activities." Lauren was even more direct. "I defended you, Brianna. I told people the accusations were lies. Now I find out you're the liar. Don't contact me again." Jake was arrested Thursday morning at Elite Fitness. The gym fired him immediately, and his mugshot made the local news. In the photo, he looked nothing like the confident trainer from his Instagram posts. He looked like what he was, a small-time con artist who'd gotten in over his head. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Brianna calling from jail. "Danny, I need you to bail me out." "No. Please. I can't stay in here. The other inmates, they don't like people who steal from their husbands." "Good. Maybe you'll have time to think about what you've done." "I'll lose everything. My job, my friends, my reputation, everything." "You already lost your job. Your friends abandoned you the minute they learned the truth. And your reputation? You destroyed that yourself when you decided to steal my money to fund your affair." "Danny, please. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. We can work through this." "Brianna, listen to me very carefully. You are a thief and a liar. You stole my money, committed fraud against your employer, and cheated on me with a man I wouldn't hire to wash my car. There is no working through this. There's only consequences." "What do you want from me?" "I want you to plead guilty, serve your sentence, and stay out of my life, forever. And if I don't, then I'll testify at your trial. I'll tell the jury about every lie you told, every dollar you stole, every text message you sent to your boyfriend while you were spending my money. I'll make sure the whole world knows exactly who you are." There was a long silence. "You've changed, Danny. You used to be kind." "I used to be naive. There's a difference." She hung up. The trial lasted 3 days. Brianna pled guilty to credit card fraud, employment fraud, and conspiracy. Jake pled guilty to conspiracy and receiving stolen property. The judge sentenced Brianna to 18 months in prison and ordered her to pay full restitution. Jake got 6 months and community service. I was in the courtroom when the sentence was read. Brianna looked back at me once, her eyes filled with tears. I felt nothing. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. Brianna got nothing. No alimony, no property, no assets. She was still in prison, working in the laundry for 20 cents an hour, trying to pay off her restitution. I kept the house, the business, and my dignity. Most importantly, I kept the lesson. Trust is earned, not given, and some people will always choose the easy wrong over the difficult right. 6 months after the trial, I was closing up the garage when Neil stopped by. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "Going after her so hard?" I thought about it as I locked the front door. No, she made her choices, and I made mine. The only difference is, I chose to hold her accountable instead of being her next victim. What if she tries to contact you when she gets out? She won't. Prison has a way of clarifying things. She knows that chapter of her life is closed. We walked to Neil's car in comfortable silence. The evening air was cool, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear the sound of traffic on the freeway. People going home to their families, their lives, their responsibilities. "You know what the funny thing is?" I said as Neil unlocked his car. She was right about one thing. I did change. I became the man I should have been all along. Someone who doesn't tolerate being stolen from, lied to, or disrespected in his own home. Neil smiled. The old Danny would have forgiven her and taken her back. The old Danny was an idiot who confused kindness with weakness. The new Danny knows the difference. I walked back to my truck and sat behind the wheel for a moment, looking at my garage. Morrison's Custom Garage. My name, my work, my reputation. Built with honest money and honest effort, maintained by treating people fairly and expecting the same in return. Brianna had tried to take that from me, but she'd failed. She'd underestimated the man she'd married, assuming I'd always be the pushover who cleaned up her messes and asked for nothing in return. She'd learned otherwise. I started the truck and drove home to my quiet house, my paid-off mortgage, and my zero-balance credit cards. In the morning, I'd get up and go to work, building and fixing things that mattered, surrounded by people who respected honesty and craftsmanship. It was a good life, a life I'd earned. And for the first time in months, that was enough.